What's good, everybody? Valor here. Welcome back to the workbench once again, and this time we're taking a look at something kind of interesting by Suild Tech. It's kind of, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I think it's Suild. Let me just show you on the board there. It's spelled like build, but with an S. Simple, but yes. But yeah, today we're taking a look at some of the parts that he has created, being the two versions of the Mosfet board and the PWM unit. And these are quite interesting parts, especially if nowadays you've been getting into using something like a solenoid as your pusher, because these will be very useful for you. Starting off, we're going to take a look at the PWM board 1. This is actually a revision of his, I think this is actually called the 2, or whatever, but this is a revision of his older design that is made to be much more small. The older version used to be about this size, and yes, he makes it so you can solder onto the points there and there for the battery and the motor, or whatever you're wanting to connect it to. And it has 2 spots for switches, so you can have a couple different spots for that. And it can handle up to a 3S. He says not to use 4S because that will burn out the Mosfet. But overall, it's still quite handy, especially if you're going to use something like a stock nerf switch for something, for whatever reason, if you don't have a larger sort of micro switch on hand, or say if you're running something like a pair of motors for Eclipse and you needed a small switch for that, and you're going to be needing high amperage draw, so you just want to have it go through the Mosfet instead of going through your switch. So yeah, that will be quite handy. I'll just move this off to the side now. This is the newest Mosfet board. It has the this one, I actually had the leads just on there. You got the one that goes to your battery, which again, this one can do up to a 3S as well. He says not to do 4S, otherwise you're going to burn it out. But yeah, he has a version that has the XT60 connectors on there already, as well as a spot already on there for one, but you can actually have extra soldered on there. And he did this specifically for things like the Dominator, which are three stage, and having multiple stages coming off of the one set of XT60s can be a little bit annoying for some people, so we just added an extra plug to it. So if you want to be able to swap out cages and stuff in a Dominator for things like, say you're experimenting on the optimal crush setup or whatever RPM wise, you can do that. And this also has the spot for the switches and everything, and like the other version, it has these pin headers, which I will explain to you now. This is the PWM unit. This is made so you can either do select fire of either semi or full auto on something like a solenoid. This is a Flywheel of the World solenoid that I purchased a while back. Or you can do speed control of a pair of motors. This is just a pair of XP180s in a Dr. Snicker's 3.1 lightweight cage, I believe is what this one is specified as. And I'll show you how everything works. And on top of that, with the PWM board, you also get some leads and everything. And you also get the leads to plug into the Mosfet boards and everything whenever you get them. But this will make things really easily. I'm going to take the selector switch. This is just a 3-pole 2-position switch, nice and small, so you can tuck it anywhere. And what you want to do is, there are markings on the back here. On this version of the board it says PWM select, but that is kind of a bad name. He just should push it, but he's going to mark it as like mode switch or whatever in the next version. And these switches are marked. Whenever you get the board, the wires will not be soldered to the switch. Just the direction does not matter, as long as you just have the white wire to the center, and that'll be fine either way. Now you have the knob, which is just a standard potentiometer. I actually have some of these myself. In the future, he'll have a few different versions with like a smaller knob cap or whatever, and you can always print up your own knob caps. These are just the type that press on, and the knob itself actually has a nut on it with a washer, so you can actually drill a hole through your blaster, secure it from the inside, and it's not going to go anywhere. And he also suggests, like, if you're needing space, you can actually snip off these pins here and just solder the wires directly through these holes, but it's not quite as strong. But then again, it's going to be inside of your blaster, so strength is not going to be too big of an issue as long as it's not in like a flex point or something. And I'm just going to take the thing right here, plug it in. The ridges are on the inside towards the female pin header. Click that in, and that is in place. Just stick that knob on there. And this is the switch, the switch leads. This is just a momentary switch I had lying around. It will come whenever you get it. It will just be the leads itself that you can just take it and solder it to whatever switch you like. And I will put that in where it goes, right here. Everything's nicely marked on the opposite side of the board so you can see. And you also get some jumper caps. Now what these do is allows you to do either the speeds of the rate of fire, or you can have it be to mark it as PWM for motors. I'm going to demonstrate with the motors first, and you want it to be in the first position. That is marked as flywheels. And now what you want to do is that pin header I mentioned, you just want to plug it in there, and it's marked and everything with ground and everything, and it can also fit the Mosfet board 1 or the smaller Mosfet board or whatever, but it is a little bit smaller and harder to get to. Just, you know, it can be done, it's just going to be a bit smaller if you only need the smaller size, which this you can tuck anywhere basically. You could just easily fit this in the bottom of a grip of a strife or something. And you just want to take this, match up the pins and everything, make sure the markings are correct for the things, or else you might blow some up. And yeah, you just put that in. This end goes to the battery, and this goes to the motors. And with this sort of setup, you could actually control all 3 sets of motors. If you're doing something like a Dominator where you want to be able to tune things down, and it will change the RPM proportionally with the PWM. And what you want to do is you've got the switch here, and then you've got the motors there. And where you press the button, it works as intended. Now, you can actually adjust the knob. I'm going to just move a little bit, and then you press it again. And you can hear that. It's actually changing the voltage and such to the motors. At least I'm pretty sure that. Either that or it's pulsing the electricity and changing the pulse length to the motors each time. So that is something to keep in mind. And this switch here, let me just move the switch, the knob all the way to the end, to the lowest setting. What this switch does in flywheel mode is whenever you switch it on, it will actually bypass the knob and run the motors at full speed. Let's switch again, and press the button. And now it's at minimum power. So it's really good if you want to have 2 modes of power. Say if you wanted a CQB range and then you want maximum force and everything, so you could either switch it between one or the other. Which is great, especially if you're doing an indoor-outdoor game where your indoor blasters can only hit so hard and everything, so you can actually switch that. But yes, now I'm going to switch it over to the solenoid mode. Set that off to the side. And what you want to do is take the jumper cap, and there are 3 different sort of speeds for the solenoid. I'm going to put it into slow right now. And you can use this either on 2S or 3S, and the speed will be faster on 3S in terms of the RPM and such. Well, shots per minute this time. Plug this in. And now, whenever you push the switch, and you can see where it's not fully pushing, the knob actually acts as the pulse length. So there you go. That would be good for a slower rate of fire and everything. Now what I'm going to do is move that header over to medium speed, which is what I would most likely use because it's a decent rate of fire. Plug that in. And now I need to adjust this. You can have either the shorter pulses or the longer pulses. And you will need to tune with the knob the pulse length for each speed that you have selected. But once you have the speed set, you can set it and forget it, and it's quite nice. And now what the selector switch does is it will switch between full auto and semi-auto, where as long as you hold the button, it will pulse the solenoid. And it's nice to be able to actually have that ability because, like, you're not getting burst fire, but then again, if you need burst fire, you can just let off the trigger. And this is on 2S. Let me show you medium on 3S. If I can unplug it. There we go. Let's get this plugged in. I do like the fact that it's modular, which is quite nice. And you could easily have this control 3 solenoids if you wanted. It would not be that crazy. But yeah. Here is medium speed on 3S. And you will need to adjust the knob. There we go. And this is 3S medium. That is one really cool thing about having a solenoid as your pusher. It actually has a bit of recoil to it. And then fast, I'm going to show it to you, but it is quite insane on 3S. It would only be really useful if you have a small solenoid for something that you have a very specific use for. And I'll show that to you now. Let me adjust the pulse length. It's an absolute dart hose at this point, but yeah. My hand's just vibrating the whole time. It's quite crazy. This could beat out several rapid strikes I know of at this point. I don't think it'll be able to beat out Hyperfire at this pulse length and everything, but that is an absolute dart hose that you'd really need a lot of mags to run for. Like, you'd need at least 5 or 6 Worker 22 rounders on you to be able to run this, that speed. But yeah, I am very happy with these parts overall. Just the fact that it's a modular setup that allows you to control your friggin' solenoids or your motors, and the fact that it gives you more options for doing so in a really easy and affordable package, because these are actually quite cheap. I bought several sets of these because they were so affordable on the on his store on SouildTech.com or Suild.com. But yeah, let me know what you think down in the description below, and I will also put the links to the website and everything down below where you can buy these and all that jazz, because these will be great for the oncoming future of using solenoids as pushers for auto and everything, instead of using the old school method of using a 90-degree gearbox with a DC motor and everything, because this allows you to have basic cycle control just by tapping the button once, instead of having to have a third switch here and everything, and it's a little more complicated because 3-switch wiring diagrams are quite complicated. But as ever, I thank you very much for watching. My name is Valor. I'll see you guys next time.